Okay, folks, it's 3 o'clock. Mauricio,
Yes.
call this meeting to order.
Thank you. Commissioner Stuyvesant? Vice Mayor Lama?
Here.
Commissioner Joseph is here. Mayor Svechin?
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Vizcarra is not here yet.
Okay, great, thank you. We have a really packed agenda. First, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And we're going to make a little bit of a change because some of the people are not here yet. So we're going to start with 2C.
2C is the City Manager's Awards.
Everyone's
Okay,
here
Mayor?
for 2C?
Yes,
Okay.
everybody's here that I needed
Okay.
to see here.
Great, thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission, this for me is probably the most important thing that I do each year in recognizing our employees for outstanding service. I know that many of you deal with them throughout the year, and it's very difficult to narrow down the selection for the 3 awards that I have today. So it requires a lot of thought and consideration because our staff is what makes the city great. And I wanted to start off with the Employee of the Year. I try to hold these nominations and awards in great confidence. So I try not to let people know who it is, so they have to wait till the last minute. But our Employee of the Year is this person in some way or another has helped every department in the city. They have the most important quality that I look for, which is a positive can-do attitude. That, along with their expertise and skill, has enabled us to rebuild many of our departments over the past 3 years. Her work ethic and attitude is outstanding, and she has had that while handling 707 recruitments in 3 years. So the Employee of the Year for 2024 is LaSabria Ware. So if LaSabria, we're going to ask her to receive her award and sit down, please, and then we're going to have all 3 of them come up so they can take a group picture with all of you. So congratulations to LaSabria. The second award is the City Manager Award, and this award, I look across the organization for, even though everyone is special, I look for someone that is unique and ordinary, unique and does extraordinary things. And this person, when I reveal to you who it is, you're going to know because you, including elected officials, have dealt with this person off and on throughout the year. This award looks for someone who goes above and beyond. They help all of us, including the elected officials, with grace and support. I've never heard this person in all of the years that I've known them say a bad word or a bad thing about anything or anyone. I think in this day and age, it's truly rare to meet someone who's a true gentleman. And to further share the importance and significance of this award, this is the first time ever that the City Manager Award has gone to a part-time employee. The City Manager Award goes to Marco Sanchez. Marco, congratulations. Thank you. Have a seat. Mayor, Commissioners, our last award is the City Manager Achievement Award. I do not have this award every year. This, I look back over the past many years at someone who has done something, but not just the day-to-day, but implementing some change that has helped us throughout the organization, and that has been significant. This person has consistently created new and innovative ways to recruit, hire, and retain qualified staff, especially in our efforts to completely rebuild the police department. When other departments were losing officers, the commission gave me direction to make public safety our #1 priority. It was their suggestion to implement a hiring and retainment bonus, which was a pivotal factor in successfully hiring now to date 18 new police officers, 18. It was their idea to produce and expand monthly reports, agency accreditation, first for the police department, and now we're working very closely with the building department. And their support in achieving these accomplishments have been instrumental in the success of the departments, particularly the Office of the City Manager. So the City Manager Achievement Award goes to Yael Londano. Thank you. So if we could go down and take a quick picture, please, and then we're going to do the police.
Congratulations. I want to quickly acknowledge Alexis Mosley from Commissioner Mickey Steinberg's office. Thank you for being here. And Gabriel Beredes from Israel and Miami, who is the Director of Hispanic and Interfaith Affairs. Thank you for being here. Please, Mr. Manager, go ahead.
Mayor, next award, I'm going to ask to call up the police chief to give out the police officer of the year. Thank you, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. As a police chief, this is one of my proud moments, and I'm honored to be up here, and I have goosebumps. I would like to call the 2024 Officer of the Year up to stand next to me as I read what I prepared. Detective Amanda Ronaldo. Dear Detective Rinaldo, congratulations on being named Officer of the Year for 2024. This prestigious award is a well-deserved recognition of your outstanding service to the city of Sunny Isles Beach. These are some noteworthy achievements. You were nominated and awarded the 2024 Anthony D'Amato Legacy Award for your meticulous work on an armed sexual battery case, which led to the successful execution of a search warrant at the crime scene, the recovery of vital video evidence, and the subsequent arrest and full confession of the offender responsible for this heinous act. You were additionally selected by command staff as Officer of the Quarter for October, November, December of 2024. For your investigation into a domestic armed robbery at gunpoint, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault with a firearm, and 8 counts of domestic battery. The victim later reached out to express her heartfelt gratitude for your professionalism, compassion, and unwavering support throughout this difficult case, highlighting your dedication during a very challenging time. This recognition is a testament to your remarkable contributions, tireless work ethic, and unwavering commitment to justice. We are incredibly proud to have you as an esteemed member of our team. On behalf of command staff, behalf of the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, and the city manager's office, I'm honored to present you with the 2024 Officer of the Year Award.
I'd like to recognize the Honorable Ron Silver, former senator and former representative of Florida. Thank you for being here. Okay. I see now that, okay, they're here. We're going to go back to then the first proclamation.
Yeah. So the first item is 2A, a proclamation presented for the Nova Music Festival Exhibition Day.
Okay. Like I said, we have a pretty packed agenda, and all of these items are important to each of us and all of us. So I want to give every one of us time to talk about why we put this on the agenda. We as a commission have been very supportive as a body and individually of combating anti-Semitism, condemning terrorism, and supporting Israel. And it really is my honor to give this proclamation to the founders of not only the Nova Music Festival, but also the Nova Music Festival exhibition. So I want to hear from them more than from me, but I do want to read the proclamation into the record. Whereas on October 7, 2023, during the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel, a horrific and unprovoked act of violence took the lives of 411 innocent attendees, staff, and security personnel, and resulted in the abduction of 44 individuals to Gaza, marking the largest massacre in music history. And whereas in the aftermath of this tragedy, survivors and visionaries Ophir Amir, Omri Sassi, Yagiel Rimoni, Yoni Feingold, Scooter Braun, Joe Teplo, and Josh Caden united to create the Nova Music Festival exhibition, an immersive and powerful tribute to those who lost their lives in this brutal massacre. And whereas the exhibit sets out to recreate a festival dedicated to the peace and love that was savagely cut short by a terrorist attack on that fateful day, and whereas the city of Sunny Isles Beach grieves alongside the international community for the lives lost and irrevocably changed on that tragic day, and extends its heartfelt condolences and unwavering support to the survivors, families, and loved ones affected. And whereas the resilience and is a testament to standing together against terrorism. Whereas the city reaffirms its commitment to condemn hate and all acts of terrorism. Now, therefore, do I, Larissa Svechin, as mayor on behalf of the City Commission of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, hereby designate January 16th, 2025 as the Music Festival Exhibit Remembrance Day in the City of Sunny Isles Beach. I believe we have a video.
For those that don't know, this is our third major city. Since the moment we decided we were coming to Miami, the community showed up for us, so thank you.
The most painful times in our lives are those that in retrospect cause us to grow and ask the questions, who am I and what really matters to me?
Watch the stories, listen to them, and bring friends who didn't know. This place makes a difference day in and day out.
It's incredible, it's mind-blowing, and I definitely feel like, everyone should see this and everyone should know the truth.
On our dance floor, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. We are all the same, dancing together as one. Every day, I'm thankful you are here and sharing your story. May your voices endure the ages.
If you look around the room tonight, every person here cares about you and prays for your well-being.
Thousands of community members bound by the same faith and shared values, your light will never fade away. You are the ones who show us the way. And because of you, dear people who came here today, the Nova generation, and all of us will dance again and again and again.
Before we come down for a picture, I wanted to hear from you all, if you can come
For those
up
that don't,
and say a few words. And I know we have some people in the audience that wanted to say a few words. I want to also recognize Vice Mayor Michelle Lazaro from Hallandale Beach. Thank you for being here. Mayor, would you like to come up here?
Hello,
Hi.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, the City of Sunny Isle. I'm really touched and honored to be here, standing here and speaking in front of you. And beautiful city of Sunny Isle. I live not far away from here, and I first have to mention, I feel so welcome and loved here in Miami, in Sunny Isle especially. So thank you very much. So I'm one of the producers and founders of the Nova Festival, and also the co-producer of the exhibition. While I was escaping, when the terrorists started to closing in on us and the rockets started to shoot in the sky, I got shot in both of my legs, and I'm lucky to be standing and walking today. And the days after, October 7th, after we realized that we lost so many of our friends and families, and over 40 people were taken hostage, we understood that we as the producers, we have to take action and take care of our community. We realized that if we don't do that, then no one will. And so the next days, we opened a healing center for the survivors and the bereaved families to come and heal together and deal with the trauma. And after a month, while we were running this healing facility, we understand that we have to do something for the memorial of our friends and families that we have lost. One of the co-producers, his name is Omri Sassi. He lost his uncle and his cousin. She was 5 months pregnant, and her husband. So he comes to us and says, guys, we have to do something for the memorial of our friends so everyone can see what happened to us, because we are a community without borders, and there in the south, there are the villages and the kibbutzim where you can come and go and pay respect. So this is where the idea of this exhibition started, as an exhibition for the memorial. But after a few days, after we open the doors, we understand it's not only for the memorial. Of course, we will speak for those who are not here today, but we see that everyone that walks through this exhibition, how he relates to it, how he got affected by it. So we understand it's such a strong tool to show the world, after so much hate and denial on social media and the lack of support from the music industry, we understand that with this exhibition we can show the world what happened to us. We will, with this exhibition, not only remember our friends, but we will also fight hate, fight anti-Semitism, educate the people that have no idea what's going on, what happened to us. And so 4 months after we opened in Tel Aviv, we bring the exhibition to New York. We had over 100,000 people see it in New York and then in LA. And I'm very proud that we opened here a month ago. Again, the support that we get from Miami, from the city of Sunny Isle, and all this area, it's incredible. And a very important message that is important for us at this exhibition. When you walk through, it has nothing to do with religion or politics or Israel. It's what happened at the biggest massacre in the history of music festival. And through that message, it's easy to bring anyone to see this. It's not about taking sides. It's about good and wrong, and evil and good. And so I ask you and everyone that's here, please come to see the exhibit. Everyone needs to see this. This is how we can educate and bring our allies together again. And I'm very honored, thank you, to be here talking today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice Mayor Lazar, did you want to say a few words? I don't want to put you on the spot. Gabriel, please.
Shalom, good afternoon, buenas tardes. First of all, thank you very much for the City of Sunny Isles, Mayor and Commissioners, for your support, also for the representative from NOVA. Even though at the consulate we've been working since October 7, 2023, for this terrible tragedy and massacre, it really helps to go and see the exhibition. Actually, we make us very emotional because we cannot believe in year 2023, even today, things like that happen. We can read something about the history, many ancestors, but not today. Unfortunately, what the creation, when you see the images, is what you feel is like, even though I'm a person that I don't hate people because I feel like I'm a pure love person, but it gives you some kind of hate. Because when you see so many innocent people who were killed, children, innocent women, adults, it's impossible to tolerate. So honestly, to have the exhibition is to remind us what happened every day and to prevent for the future. And this is not a tragedy only for Israelis, for the Jews, for the humanity. So it should affect everyone. Everyone should think about it. Unfortunately, to defend ourselves, sometimes we have to do stuff that we don't like, but it's a matter of survival. Okay? So just as a reminder, it's what happened in 2023, October 7. Just remember also Twin Towers, the 2 terrorist attacks in Argentina. Remember Madrid, remember Paris, London. Same type of groups, still alive and doing stuff against the world. So just to say thank you. Of course, go to see the exhibition because it's an amazing work they're doing. And as I always do, I would like to everyone, if you can stand up for a second. Israel has been having a difficult time, but we need to support especially the soldiers who are defending the state of Israel. They are defending democracy, and they're defending every single person in the world who really would like to live in peace. So I just ask for an applause for every soldier who's here alive. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Before you start, Vice Mayor, I neglected to say that it was you that did this first and gave me this idea, and it was amazing. So thank you, and thank you for coming here.
It was Bishar. We have never met before outside of a commission meeting, and we met in a very unlikely place. and I happened to mention it, and I really feel like this was meant to be, you know. I just want to say, you know, I could stand up here and talk about October 7th, but this is really about them and the festival and the exhibit. It's about the testament of survival, but also that they have been brave enough to put themselves out there and continue to live through it in some way, and that by having the exhibit, by talking about it, it's, I think, also not only painful but cathartic. It helps them, I think, I don't want to speak for them, but to process it. So it's so important not only that we get the message out, but that we continue to support the survivors in that way. You know, I've been to the exhibit 3 times, and the first time I went was opening night. It was, you know, it was very hard to really take it in. The second time I went, I stayed for 2 hours, and that's where I met Ophir, and I basically demanded that he's getting a proclamation. I didn't even ask. I just said, we're giving you a proclamation. And then I felt bad. I was like, maybe he doesn't even want to come to a commission meeting, but he was more than willing. The third time I went because I made somebody go with me. I was actually bringing somebody there. I feel this way. People say they're too sad, it's too painful, it's too hard. And I say, well, if you can't do it, please buy a ticket and give it to somebody, because we need to continue to support the exhibit while it's here. And I did that a few times, and people said, that's a great idea. You know, if you can't go, still buy the ticket and try to give it to someone else. But I just want to thank Ophir and the other survivors for coming to Miami, for being here and being a part of our family while you're here. And thank you so much for the hard work. And thank you to this body for doing this and recognizing them. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Silver, I know you wanted to say a few words, please. No, take your time, please.
Used to be able to run up there.
Your reputation precedes you, so we know.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, it's great to be here. I played a very active role when I was in the House and the Senate in creating this city along with Senator Margolis, and I'm just happy to see the progress that you're making. I just want to say I'm very supportive of what you're doing. As one who, I served 24 years in the Florida legislature, and I know what you can do as an elected official. You can do something or you can do nothing. And you all, by virtue of this, have elected to make your views known. And for that, I congratulate you, because you could sit back and just not do anything and nod your head, but you've taken more of an action. So I congratulate you on that, and I wish the very best for all of you. And I just wanted to come here and be supportive. And as I say, it takes me a little bit longer to get there, but I guess I'm getting there anyway. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we go down for a picture, was anybody on the commission would like to say a few words? No? Okay, we'll go down for a picture.
Aquí sabes que tienen una super aliada
Sí,
en la ciudad.
total, lo sabemos.
Todos
Sí, lo
estamos
sabemos.
acá para ustedes.
Sí, lo sabemos.
Entonces, lo que necesiten, cuando lo necesiten, por favor, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Claro que sí.
just want to say the exhibit is open until mid-February. Is that correct? Is it mid-February it's open?
Until mid-February. Yes.
Okay, all right. And if anyone here, anyone on the commission wants to go, I'll be very happy to buy your ticket. Thank you so much. Oh, and tonight, not that I don't want you to come to our commission meeting at 6:30, but at the exhibit, they actually have Noah, one of the hostages that was not released, rescued. Actually, the Saturday that I was there is going to be speaking. That's a really, really big deal. So, I mean, still come to the commission meeting, but that's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. So, thank you guys. Okay. Stay down. We're going to do another one.
So we'll go on to the next one, Mayor. Item 2B, it's a proclamation presented for the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
Okay. So we've had a few of these proclamations. This one is a little different in that we have done these in the past year, but the people that we have to accept the proclamations are I'm really honored to have here. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and then I'm going to ask Helen to come up to say a few words. Whereas January 27th marks the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest and most infamous Nazi concentration and extermination camp, where over 1 million innocent men, women, and children lost their lives during the Holocaust. And whereas this solemn anniversary serves as a powerful reminder of the horrors of hatred, bigotry, and inhumanity, as well as a call to action to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Whereas the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau by the Soviet Army in 1945 revealed the true extent of the Holocaust horrors and stands as a significant moment in the fight against tyranny and oppression. And whereas the city of Sunny Isles Beach joins the global community in honoring the memory of those who perished, celebrating the resilience of survivors, and reaffirming our commitment to combat anti-Semitism, racism, and all forms of prejudice. And whereas the 80th anniversary of this historic liberation reminds us of the importance of Holocaust education, ensuring that future generations learn the lessons of history and embrace tolerance, respect, and human dignity for all. Now, therefore, do I, Larissa Svetchin, as mayor, and on behalf of the City Commission of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, hereby designate January 27, 2025 as Liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the City of Sunny Isles Beach, to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of German Nazi concentration and extermination camp in Auschwitz. It's very sad that, unfortunately, we have to have these two items, because normally in the past, we just had this one, and we always were able to say never again. As we all know, that's not the case. So we as a commission, and again, I applaud the entire commission for consistently, with every commission meeting, showing their support of combating anti-Semitism, but more than that, really understanding how important it is for all of us to understand that hate is not just for the Jews. It may start with the Jews, but it doesn't end with the Jews. So I am honored to have some people here to accept this. Dr. Nikki Friedman, Education Director of the Holocaust Memorial, Miami Beach, and Dr. Helen Sachs Chassett, daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors, who were longtime SIB residents, Secretary of Miami-Dade Holocaust Survivors, Inc., and volunteer docent at the Holocaust Memorial, Miami Beach, also board member of Jewish Community Services of South Florida, which serves our survivor needs, and is also, where a lot of people don't know, was born in an internment camp. That's another part of the history that most people don't know. So, Dr. Chassett, if you can come up and say a few words to accept the proclamation, I'd appreciate it, and then we'll take a picture.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My mother was taken to Auschwitz towards the end of the war, and from Auschwitz she was sent to Ravensbrück women's camp Mulehausen, which was a subcamp of Buchenwald, and then Bergen-Belsen, where she was liberated by the British. Both my parents were survivors, and I want to thank you for this proclamation. If my father had been alive, if either of them had been alive on October 7th, they would have probably died. That was a horrible reminder of hate that still flows in the world. Dr. Nikki Freeman here is the education director of the Holocaust Memorial in Miami Beach, where we are building a new education center. It's currently under construction and due to open fall of this year. So even though it's an open construction site, we are still seeing visitors every day of the week, including Saturday and Sunday. And we invite you to come down. There's always a docent like myself or a survivor there that you can speak with. Thank you for this.
Rabbi Kyler, you just came in. Did you want to say a few words? You don't have to. No. I see your eyes getting big. Okay. No. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the commission to please come up.
Stay. Two more proclamations, Mayor. Yeah, yes, please. The next item we have is 2E, a proclamation presented for Florida Arbor Day. Myra.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Myra Aleman, Assistant to the City Manager. This proclamation represents our ongoing commitment to maintaining and cultivating a city with healthy, beautiful trees that provide countless benefits to our community. I am also proud to share that in 2024, we were recognized as a Tree City USA for the 6th consecutive year. As we proclaim today as Florida Arbor Day, I'd like to invite everyone to our upcoming Arbor Day event taking place this Saturday at 8 a.m. at Sansom Oceanfront Park. We'll begin with a beach cleanup followed by a tree planting ceremony at 9:30. I look forward to seeing you all there and continuing our efforts to keep our city green and thriving. For more information, you can find the flyers of this event at the table by the entrance. Thank you.
And the next one is the last one, 2F, proclamation presented for National Human Trafficking Prevention Month.
So this is another one that we have done for a number of years. This is really personal for me because I worked directly with the PD, with Sergeant Gonzalez for many years to develop a program to educate the students at Norman Essetto Club KA about human trafficking. And Often people back then and even now, until recently, thought that this was really just not a problem that most societies like ours has. And regrettably, as we have seen what's happening in the UK, this is, again, something that's in the headlines. And sadly, this is not just perfunctory, this is something that we really need to pay attention to. So I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas more than 20 million men, women, and children worldwide are victims of human trafficking, and whereas human trafficking is an assault on human dignity affecting people all around the world, and whereas through coercion and force, human traffickers deprive millions of victims of their unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and whereas often referred to as modern slavery, this intolerable blight in society involves forced and involuntary labor or sex and affects people of all ages, genders, races, religions, and nationalities. And whereas this evil undermines the rule of law, robs millions of their dignity and freedom, enriches transnational criminals and terrorists, and threatens public safety and national security everywhere. And whereas, like the United States, many countries around the world have worked to implement the 3P paradigm of prosecuting traffickers, protecting victims, and preventing the crime through the passage and implementation of national anti-trafficking laws. And whereas the city of Sunny Isles Beach reaffirms its commitment to continue to raise awareness in the hopes of eradicating this abhorrent evil, to support victims and survivors, and to hold traffickers accountable for their heinous crimes. Now therefore do I, Larissa Svechin, as mayor, and on behalf of the City Commission of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, thereby proclaim January 2025 as National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Thank you.
Okay. The next item is now a discussion item, 3A, a discussion regarding on-demand microtransit.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission, for quite some time, we have been discussing on-demand transit, and you all have expressed support of that option. Recently, well, over a year ago, the Better Bus Network made some significant changes to the local routes, which affected our residents even more so. We have been working diligently to find the best option for Sunny Isles Beach. Additionally, the process requires us to, if we want to have the funding through the half-penny sales tax, we have to go through a process and have an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County for that. So to fulfill all of those needs, we have done a transit study, which was presented to you last year, I'm so sorry. And we recently did a survey, and we will now share the results of all of that with you through a somewhat lengthy PowerPoint, but it is necessary, so I apologize. Okay, so we looked at all the options. We also currently are in the need of having to upgrade the software that we use for our shuttle app because it's not good. Our GPS tracking is not accurate. Our online cameras, onboard cameras, which we're required to have, require like a download that would take several hours to capture if an incident happens. So we have an opportunity to combine everything into one package. That would be the GPS tracking, the shuttle app, the passenger counters, the cameras, and also a customer service through either phone or app. So it's not just an app like some of the applications are. So with that, we are recommending to go with a company named VIA. VIA is the current company that is doing the Metro Connect for Miami-Dade County. They have both you can order the vehicle through the app, or you can also make a phone call. So for those who don't want that. To keep it, well, I should probably, I jumped ahead, I'm sorry. The blue line through our stats, the blue line is very limited ridership. It costs a lot per hour, per ride. We recommend removing that. That's the one that several residents, will miss because it goes up to Hallandale, to the fire station right now, but it doesn't take them to where they really wanted to go, which was Walmart. So by eliminating the blue line, we could add in a microtransit option that would provide those stops that we would lose with the blue line. With that, we would also keep the orange line and add an extra bus to the orange line so that the headway would be more frequent. So we could carry more people more frequently. So I'm going to get to the survey in a second. But that was one of the concerns with the survey. So this particular option through the app, you know how if you use like Google Maps, you have the choice of walking, driving, transit. This would do the same thing. So it will give you all the options. You can wait 30 minutes and get a vehicle, a shared ride, or you can wait 10 minutes, get on a bus, and get there in 25 minutes, something like that. So it lays out all those options for you, and then it's up to you to pick. So that is one of the advantages of this. I am going to skip to the important part. Here's the process. The transit study, an updated survey, then an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County. Then we would work on procurement and bring it back to you for commission approval. So we already did the transit study. That was a year ago. We now completed the results. I do have to go over these because it's part of our interlocal agreement requirement. They're going to want to know that we did cover those. So I'm gonna skip ahead to the results. Key takeaways. So the blue line is not utilized as much as the orange line. The shuttle service is not frequent enough. 89% of respondents would use microtransit if it was available. The majority of those, 48%, would wait 15 to 29 minutes for on-demand. The majority of the respondents, 67%, are either satisfied or very satisfied with the current transit service, meaning the shuttle that we currently provide. Respondents there was an option for them to put some comments. Many said that they would want a simple system and to be shown how to use it. So a lot of what we had heard through all of the community meetings was these apps are hard to use. They're hard to navigate. Even Metro Connect, it wasn't easy. The Uber vouchers that the county was providing wasn't easy. So it wasn't a fan favorite for our residents. So that's one of the things that they're looking for. So they want a bus that they can rely on that is going to come to a bus stop. They want it to be handicap accessible. So we did order the bus with a ramp with your approval. And as we replace our fleet, they will all have that new feature. They want it to be reliable. And then they would like an on-demand option to get to these other places. And they're willing to wait up to 29 minutes to do that. So our proposed solution, as I discussed, is working with VIA, who can put together a full integrated package. It would be hybrid. We would keep our shuttle service that would perform better, would be the expectation. And there would also be the option for those outliers of microtransit that would have some parameters of a max wait time of 20 to 30 minutes, a max walking distance of 1/4 mile. So this is not door to door. To be the most efficient, it would be curb to curb. So I'm gonna use Winston Towers as an example. Currently we have several bus stops along Winston Towers. those residents would still get out and walk to the bus stop or outside. It would not come like under like an Uber would, right, and pick you up like a valet service. But if you needed we would be required to have a vehicle that would be ADA accessible. If you ordered that vehicle, it would come to your door. So if you were leaving Marion Towers and you wanted to go somewhere, that would pull into the porte cochere to pick you up and drop you off. So that's the difference there. There would be a detour allowance of 15 minutes. So if I'm picking you up at Coastal Towers and I'm taking you to Publix and somebody in Winston Towers also wants to go to Publix, they're going to detour and pick you up because they're multi-passenger vans or vehicles, no less than 6 passengers per vehicle. That's the way to make it most efficient, to have the on-demand option continue to be free. These are just some statistics on, you know, how the microtransit will replace the Blue Line and what they would expect. Daily ridership right now we have approximately 25. They would estimate 100. Productivity doubles, and the peak fleet size would be those three vehicles that I had previously mentioned. As I mentioned, the same company would also manage the app. So we would have a brand new app, easy, user-friendly. You could call for a ride on there. You could check the shuttle. You could also lodge a complaint. You could ask a question. They also have dispatchers that will answer the phone and answer your questions as well. So it has a very high level of customer service available. And then this is just a little bit about VIA. They are not new, although we weren't really aware of them until the whole Better Bus Network happened. And now we have gotten to know them a whole lot more. So Miami-Dade County is currently using them, as well as several other destinations. It offers, as I said, the rider booking tools, the operations center, and the drivers have an app. And they provide us all of the reporting and the statistics, which right now our drivers are doing for the bus. Our drivers will continue, except now we'll have passenger counters on the bus. Turnkey operation, customer service, they will come out and educate our residents. They will hold community meetings, and they would do all that. And that is basically it. You can turn it off now, please. Thank you. So what we're looking for today really is direction on how you feel about this integrated program, and if we should continue to pursue that route.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to start? Please, go ahead, Commissioner Joseph.
Who is picking up the cost?
So we currently have we're estimating $1.5 million in the half-penny sales tax money this coming year. We tend to spend a lot of money on buses. If we're eliminating some routes, we will not be buying more buses anytime soon. Our maintenance costs will still continue, but most of it would be funded through the CITT funds. And I was hoping to have an exact ballpark for you, but our conversations with them have gone from them managing the drivers and the buses to us managing the drivers and the buses. So we think that at the end we'll probably be within, you know, a slight increase for next fiscal year. It's probably going to take us, you know, time. We'll be okay for this fiscal year. Next fiscal year there will probably be a little bump up, but with each year we've had an increase just based on salaries, fuel prices, insurance, and everything else.
Right. Okay.
Is there an age limit on this, or minimum rather?
We can make that. We can make that a requirement through their app. There are all kinds of safety features that they can include.
So by taking away the Blue Line, how does that affect all those kids up north that take
It'll actually improve that, because now we'll have 3 orange buses running through. So what was the orange route? We would continue that route, but with an extra bus. So it'll be more frequent.
But it would go up to 192nd?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This will solve that problem that we had with the Better Bus Network not going to the Ocean View area.
Okay, and what are the parameters? How far out will we be able to use?
We would designate those spots. So right now, it was, it would still go to Aventura Mall and Intercoastal Mall, and we included the Walmart in Aventura, like that shopping plaza, because that was a big request from our residents.
Okay.
And it's, we can see how things go and be flexible. We can change things. Just caution that once you give them something, it's hard to take it away.
Right, so we can add on as we see that there's success in that. And then regarding the curb to curb versus the door to door, so you mentioned the bus stops. So will those be the curb stops, or how will they be determined?
So it's within a quarter mile. So if it depends on where we have a bus stop or where your departure pickup time is. So 5 people in front of Publix, well, there is a shuttle bus stop there. I'm trying to think of some place that doesn't have an actual bus stop, and I can't think of one.
I think North Bay Road there's one on 163rd, but like where Plaza of the Americas is, I don't think we have a stop there.
Right.
So if you're in Porto Bellagio.
Yes, that is a great example. Down 172nd Street and North Bay Road, there is no bus stop. So that's a good example of where they would pick up. They would be like, meet me on the corner of.
But would it stop on Collins?
Yes.
Okay.
And with that, I would like to give a little shout out to David. Thank you for meeting with our team and talking about the challenges that you saw with our previous route changes.
Yeah. Do you have a picture what these vehicles look like?
They would be custom designed for us. They would custom design the app. You would, or do you mean the physical vehicle? Looks like a little van.
Yeah, it's like a van.
It's like a little van, yes.
I have a question. Why are not we bidding this? Why are we choosing and picking and choosing a very specific vendor for this?
Because when we looked at all of the vendors that could offer the different amenities, this is the one that can provide the full system, the GPS tracking for both our shuttle buses and their vehicles.
Which is part of
the
my
cameras.
Point. Like, we didn't know even about this company until recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we put it on demand and we go and bid, we might find a company that maybe is in Seattle or DC or whatever, So I always feel very uncomfortable giving contracts that usually are for a small period of time and become forever by the finger. Maybe it's because of my background. I'm from Venezuela, where the public corruption is rampant. So I don't feel comfortable. I'm not saying that this is the case here, okay? So my point is that we have an amazing finance department and procurement department, soon-to-be department, which they do an amazing, great job. And I will feel more confident knowing that they went through a bidding process and put it out there with the different services like on demand, and we might find another company that we don't even know is in the market, So again, and all the work is already done because we know what we need and we know what we want and we know already a provider. So I think it's more transparent. It gives, it level the playing field. It gives more, I want them to compete to be part of our city. I don't feel comfortable giving it by the finger.
And I am perfectly agreeable that we can go out to bid for this. Genesis is, we can absolutely go out to bid for this. I welcome that. It's a long process, so I just want you to understand it's not going to be like super quick. And again, we have a procurement path that is perfectly legal, but I totally understand going out to bid. And now we do know, we do know from our research what options are out there, so it'll be easier to put it together.
To complete what I was saying, for example, the Uber voucher service that we know because we had it, I know a lot of people that were using it, and they were very happy. It took them time to get it, I understood, but finally when they get it, they were very happy with it. Suddenly it stopped. I remember we were in one of the workshop of the senior roundtable, and they were asking, like, what happened? Because it just suddenly stopped. But finally they got it, and they were happy with it. So my point is that maybe bringing like these competitors to the table, like Uber, Freebie, whoever is out there, and telling them, like I said, you guys did an amazing job. The presentation is really good and very complete with what is it that we're looking for. So I think we are in a very good space to make them, like I said, fight for us, you know.
Yes. Okay.
Vice Mayor,
I
do you wanna say
have some
something?
questions. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so a couple of things. So just wanted to get a refresher on the orange route. I know we're gonna have 3 buses now for that. I mean, or at least that's the proposal, so, hold on. Just wanted to know if that's gonna fulfill some of the gaps, you know, due to what Miami-Dade did with their better bus, service, or, you know? Because I just wanted to make sure that we are able to transport people that cannot walk to the bus stops, to the regular bus stops, so they could have access and, pretty much continuous access throughout the day, you know? Not wait long gaps to be able to, you know, get that bus ride to the bus stop. Another thing is that when we're talking about on demand, if we have people that, let's say we take them to Walmart, right? And they are shopping there for groceries, walking a quarter of a mile, it's tough, especially for older people. So I don't see how practical that is, to be honest with you.
No, and that's what I mean by it will be no greater than a quarter of a mile. So if it's a destination, like a Publix, like a Walmart, like the library, like Winn-Dixie, they will take you to that destination. The quarter of a mile is an example. You want to eat in a particular plaza in Sunny Isles Beach that is known for you get in and you can't get out. We have a couple of those. They might, you know, drop you off right at the entrance of the plaza. They will not stop on Collins Avenue unless if it's a bus stop. But they would let you off there, and then you walk to, you know, into the restaurant that you're going to.
Yeah. No,
Not
okay.
bring you right to the front door of the restaurant that you're going to.
Okay, understood, but if you have somebody that's older and they're
That's totally
carrying
different.
groceries, yeah.
And
They'll
and-
drop, like somebody at Winston Towers, they'll get dropped off at, let's say,
Winston
Winston
Towers.
Towers. 300?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they would probably drop them, again, we have a bus stop right outside of Winston Towers 300. So if there's, the reason of the curb to curb over door to door so much is to be able to meet those minimum thresholds, right? So if it's a slow day and the bus, you know, the vehicles are not in high demand and traffic is low, they might bring you right to your door or pick you up right at your door. And through the app, they will tell you, I'm here, you know, just like Uber does. They'll have that ability, you know, meet me here. If it's a day that traffic is extremely difficult and they have a whole lot of people waiting in the queue to pick up, they're going to drop you on 174th Street and you'll have to walk through the walkway into your building. So that's the way that they meet that time threshold.
Okay. And then how many on-demand vehicles will they be providing?
3.
3 on-demand vehicles.
This is what they're believing that they would need. And as it grows, or, you know, we can add more, but with more comes a greater cost.
Okay.
So trying to keep it with a similar budget to what we're currently doing. You know, I was hoping Linda Morris was going to be here and she can explain it so much better, but we do have a very good shuttle bus service that currently is transporting no less than 8,000 passengers a month up to 13,000 passengers a month. That's a lot of people to move in individual vehicles. So the shuttle service is working. It does work, and people do use it, especially during the peak hours. So this is finding that happy medium of still being able to provide, I'm going to call it mass transit, even though it's not really because we're small shuttle buses, and the individual vehicles that would fill that gap so that we can stay within a reasonable budget. We can throw out the shuttle bus and have 20, you know, door-to-door buses, vehicles, but it's not efficient, and it would not, it wouldn't be a good service for our residents, and it would be very expensive. And as I said that, Linda's here.
Okay.
We were just talking about the efficiency of our shuttle bus versus door-to-door and how our ridership has been reviewed, and it has been studied that to continue our shuttle bus is the best approach and not to lose it completely.
Commissioner Viscar?
So I want to talk about money.
Okay.
The penny tax. So we're
perfect timing for Linda.
You're given a criteria, a list of criteria, and to qualify for it, right, including the study, this meeting, everything else. So to Commissioner Stuyvesant's thing about going out to bid and looking at different companies. Are these monies tied to particular kinds of companies?
No, it's tied to how you're using it. So 80% has to be used on transit, 20% can be used on transportation.
And these monies, assuming that we qualify for them, is it every year? Is it a one-time thing to get it going?
No, it's every year.
Okay.
The half-penny sales tax, we've been using it since it started, I don't know how many years ago, 2002. And every year it's based on sales tax. So the more money people spend, the more money we make. And it's based on our population.
And we would be able to add this service within this budget and plus maybe some maintenance costs.
We would probably, again, if we go with a hybrid and we continue to maintain our shuttle service and we use on demand on a limited basis, we will be close to this budget without having to.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a huge hit to our budget.
It should not be, but again,
so that's good.
Once we have some solid numbers, it's still up to you.
I know.
And we could scale it back,
But I like this solution because we had never really talked about this option before, and so to be able to plug into that, we can solve a problem even if we have to increase our cost. But we're addressing an issue for in an affordable way. So I like that you went that route. I think my other questions have been answered. The orange line basically would just cover the whole city.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And include the Intercoastal Mall in North Miami Beach and Aventura Mall. So that transit center there, which also then connects to Broward County Transit, the Hallandale Circulator shuttle that they have. We've been working really close with the county as far as how the connectivity. They got Hallandale to bring their bus to Aventura so that our residents could.
We have a lot of people who use that for working.
Yes.
And one of the complaints that I got is that the city shuttle, sometimes it was like a 2-hour gap or something. I don't know if that's accurate because I haven't confirmed it, but a 2-hour gap, it's a big thing when you're trying to get home after a long day's, or maybe you can catch the 100, but it was a 2-hour gap. And so that was one of the things that I was hoping we would resolve.
And that's the efficiency of the blue line that we discussed earlier. Mm-hmm.
You said that we have an ADA bus coming, or we only have the one?
All of our existing buses are handicap accessible.
Now
they all have the ramp that comes down. It's a lift, so you have to stop the bus, put it in park, open the door, and then this lift comes down very slowly, and then you get on, and then it goes back up. What we've ordered new is the ramp that when they stop, this ramp deploys like this. Okay. So even if you're not in a wheelchair, you can walk off the ramp. So no matter
what bus shows up, if you have that need, we can meet that need.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
always.
Then good. And you must have a cell phone to use the service?
No, you can call. Okay. You can call the number. It is much more helpful if you have a cell phone because they're going to tell you, I'm 2 minutes away. I am arriving. I'm pulling up. And you're going to get that if you have a cell phone.
Okay, so that was just because not everybody does, or sometimes you don't, you ran out of minutes, or, So
Or
that's
you
good.
don't want to give out your number.
But I do like the curbs, using our existing bus stops, just because people are already familiar with them. And if you start, I understand there may be times where you need to create a place, but if you don't need to, I think if people already know where to go, that's probably the better way. And then you're keeping, you're shortening the wait time for the next person.
Correct, that's the key.
So
You
that's
could pull
good.
into a porta cachet and get stuck behind somebody delivering or, and then it delays everything. Whereas if it's more curb to curb, we could use the individual vehicles more efficiently.
No, I think you've put a lot of good thought into this, so I would certainly support pursuing it and with looking at other. I mean, we understand, right, it would take longer, right? So I don't know how much longer.
How much longer would it take?
The procurement process, I mean, we can probably get the bid out pretty quickly since we already have the scope. And then it'll probably be out for at least 4 weeks. So you're talking at least 2 months before we're back to you with a recommendation.
And
so probably at best, I mean, I think safe to say the April meeting, we would have an award for you.
And with this, if we were to move forward just with this one, how quickly would they be?
You're not going to shave off a whole lot of time. Okay. I don't even know that I could have anything to you for, for sure March, but possibly February.
So it's not a huge difference.
It should not be.
Okay.
And is VIA, why did you go with VIA?
We met them through the county and Metro Connect. Because
so they're already working in similar.
They're actually working in our city. We now have a Metro Connect zone at the north end of our city where Ocean View is. That's currently fulfilling that need. Do you want to share anything about Metro Connect or how that works, or what you've heard back? Any feedback?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Linda Morris. I'm the Chief of Service Planning and Scheduling for the county. And so right now we do have Metro Connect operating in Sunny Isles. We originally had some service at 192nd. Is that the Ocean View?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so as we removed, we put in a stopgap of an Uber voucher program. And we had to discontinue that program for financial reasons. And then we were able to deploy over it the Metro Connect service, which helps provide that mobility from that specific area as well. So we do have 11 zones within the county with Metro Connect, and we're very happy with their service as well.
Okay. Do we have any feedback from the community in terms of their satisfaction with the service?
I'm not sure if there's any quantifiable feedback, but certainly we have positive testimonials the whole time.
Okay.
I know South Miami is a big proponent of the service, and Cutler Bay as well has a very large ridership there.
Okay. Right. So when we were having many conversations with the county about all of the changes, and at one point I said to Linda, I'm like, can't we just add a Metro Connect zone in Sunny Isles Beach? And that's when we got into the conversation about how successful our shuttle bus program really is in moving larger quantities of people. And between our shuttle and their 100 route and 75 route, which, again, thank you for getting it back over by Marion Towers and bringing it inside the city again. Thank you for that. We have a good, healthy transit system. So this would just complement it. And so, that's how we met VIA, was because Metro Connect was.
Okay. Do we have consensus that we want to take it out to bid?
Yes.
Or do we have any opposition?
Well, I believe that you just never know who's going to pop up that offers a service. So let's give it a shot and see who's out there.
Especially if the time difference is not going to be that
Not
great.
very much, and let's see who's out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Cutler Bay is using VIA as well?
Yeah, the county provides all the service for Cutler Bay.
Or just like you're doing to us here, right, in Sunny Isles Beach?
So it's slightly different. We cover the entirety of Cutler Bay right now. It's with one zone, and so they were, I think, the first Metro Connect zone that we had.
Got it, got it. It's not that they've contracted via on their own, right? It's in conjunction with.
They are contracting the county.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. So you
Yes,
have your marching orders. Okay, thank you. Next item. Are we okay going forward? Yes? Yes. Okay.
Next item is 3B, discussion regarding donations.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission, through the budget process, we had talked about you wanting to have the donations put back in the budget, and Vice Mayor Lama has asked for some guidelines, as well as some others of you. So the memo pretty much spells all of it out, and then you have these lovely handouts that would define the process of how it will go. Oh, here. So sorry. Well, now I don't have one, but it's okay. No. Keep it. Oh, no, here I do.
Which one are we looking at? Because there's
Look at the application and guide, no, the commission, the one that says.
elected official guidelines?
Elected officials guideline.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one. So we would create a seamless doc, and any applicant would fill out the seamless doc. They would have to include all of the information that we have listed in here as to what they, their 501c3 eligibility, the budget for the project or the organization, some key performance indicators for their success, the donation request form filled out, and a formal letter of to a particular commissioner if they wanted to ask somebody specifically to sponsor their item. So we would take them all in. The goal is that there'd be an application period, right? So at the beginning of the fiscal year, the application period opens. We would receive them, the application period closes. We would make sure that the application was complete. Any accurately completed applications that are eligible, we would forward all of those to you. And then you all would choose if you want to sponsor that item or not. And then it would come to, you would bring it forward at a commission meeting.
individually sponsor?
You could, yes, you would choose which one you're going to sponsor.
Okay.
The minimum amount that someone could apply for would be $500. The maximum would be $2,500. If they're awarded this year, they would not be awarded the following year, but then they could apply again the year after, so that the concept is that they don't rely solely on your donation for their success. They need to be using other funding sources as well.
Okay. And I know that we've spoken before about municipal purposes.
That has to be, that's one of the criteria.
So they have to prove that.
They have to explain the municipal purpose, yes. And then it's up to you to,
Determine if it's correct.
Correct, yes.
So staff would not be involved in this at all?
We would, yes. If we don't deem it as municipal purpose, we wouldn't even forward it to you. Is that right, Alan?
Well, that's one option, or you could forward it to them and then advise that it's the opinion that it's not a public purpose or sufficient to meet the criteria.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Go ahead.
Are we going to have a policy as well for in-kind donations? Because in-kind is a form of monetary also donation. In-kind donations reduce the recipient's need to spend money, freeing up funds for other uses. So for example, if we're giving somebody a free office space that it will cost, let's say, $5,000, it's like giving those $5,000 that now they can use for something else, because now they don't need to spend that. So also, in-kind donation, they create like a hidden channel of influence, because some people are getting them, some people are not. There is, again, not a policy for in-kind. In-kind donation give financial relief to whoever is receiving it, okay? In my opinion, we should treat both type of donations equally. There will be more accountability, more integrity, will be more consistent, and so we are gonna give in-kind donations and monetary donations, the same exact guideline. Again, will be consistent, okay? Because like I said before, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that in-kind donations are being right now treated for influence, and specifically for political influence. So if we don't want to go into that path, let's treat them all equally, both in-kind and monetary donations. Otherwise, I'm completely against this guideline. This guideline is only going to give us the excuse why not to give money to certain institutions or whoever is asking for. So as we have completely open door for in-kind with zero guideline, and it's being used for politics, but now we are creating and we are tying up our hands with this guideline, again, that is going to give us the excuse, we cannot give to these people that is coming because of guideline number 3. Plus, the period of time, I think it should not be there, because what if the time period for the application passes and then we have a tragedy like what happened right now, let's say in California. And let's say that we have some drones or vehicles or whatever that we can spare and send them to them. It will be an in-kind donation. So again, the period of time, and I know you guys have been putting a lot of time in this, and I know it was consensus, even though that I voted against, giving you guys the direction to create this guideline. But I like consistency, and consistency gives people it makes them feel more trust in what we are doing right here. So if we are going to do this guideline, maybe it needs some tweaks, but I want to include in the same exact level with whatever guideline we approve, both monetary and in-kind donations.
So we can absolutely include in-kind donations here as well. I know from a staff level, if we have an in-kind donation, we do bring it to you, North Miami Beach Little League, using the baseball field is an example, if there's a value to it. And the timeline, so typically when you're granting funds like that, there is like an application period so that it's kind of organized and people don't wait till the last minute. If there is an unexpected tragedy like you suggested, the commission can always, you all can always put it on the agenda to add, you could do a budget amendment to add more donation funds if you've already allocated everything, or bring it forth that way. So there's always time throughout the rest of the year to be able to do that. There's another avenue to do that.
Yeah, in my point with the in-kind donations, if that, for example, I know that it's going to be at the end of the month an event in one of our parks, which is basically an in-kind donation. I find out about it because I received the invitation from the organization. So those surprises, those kind of use of our infrastructure, that if they were going to be renting it, it would cost money, is my point, So I want to see everybody treated equally. And if we are going to have a guideline for certain groups, we should have the guideline for everybody, unless, of course, mitigating circumstances like tragedies and other things that can happen and is outside our, like we cannot be planning for that. But yes, I will be okay with a guideline if it's going to be for everybody, not just for certain people or certain organizations.
Right. So may I ask, and actually I'll work with Alan after this about how we would manage then sponsorships, because I think there's a difference between an in-kind donation and a sponsorship. So I'll work with Alan on that.
I would like this.
I could add also that you're correct that an in-kind donation is the same as an actual donation. Legally, from a legal standpoint, they should be treated the same. So to the extent that we have a schedule for actual donations for the amount that's been budgeted, you could still apply the same criteria to in-kind, although it's not spaced out necessarily with that same calendar or that same schedule, but the same criteria should apply.
Yes.
If I may.
Agreed.
Then I would like to see also a guideline for sponsorships. Okay? Because a sponsorship, if we're giving our spaces or whatever it is that we're giving, that it can have a monetary value, also should have a guideline. Because it seems that up to right now it's being like pick and choose without, let's put it a guideline, and I believe it will be more transparent, and we will give more public trust if we are the same way that anybody can apply for an in-kind donation, monetary donation. Also, there should be an application for a sponsorship, and if it's the guideline can be part of the guideline, I would like us to be the ones also have the final decision to vote for the sponsorships as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Which you will, that's how it's built now. Ultimately, it's your decision.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Thank you very much for putting this together. I think this is a great starting point. Obviously, there's going to be some changes to it from what we're discussing now. One thing about the application period, if we could extend that to at least to April, so it just gives organizations a little more time, because January is basically like a dead month. You know, people are getting back from vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So it just gives them a little more time, especially, you know, if we're requiring some of this documentation. And I understand that, you know, we meet once a month, and obviously we need some time to process this. So we're looking at, you know, we get an application, we're looking at least 3 months before we could approve the funds, whether we approve them or not. But yeah, the process takes a while. So I would give, you know, organizations a little more time, perhaps end of April. And then, yes, in-kind donations have to be, I assume that this meant in-kind donations as well. Mm-hmm. It could be the same guidelines, perhaps. You know, just write in-kind donations as well. But then it leads to another question mark, you know, especially from bullet point number 2 and page 3, right? Obviously, we all know, you know, that there's some in-kind donations for some events in the city. So we'll just have to see how those are treated, and you know how we could approach those so they could happen.
About the religious.
Yeah. Those
So how
events.
Would that, how would that be treated?
Yeah.
Would there be?
I mean, I know this has come up before, but how we could work that in there as a city event, I'm not sure.
I sent you an email earlier at the beginning of the holiday season.
Yeah.
The Florida Constitution has a specific no aid clause with regards to financial assistance to religious organizations, and that could be in kind as well as stroking a check.
Mm-hmm.
There's few exceptions with regards. There's one case out of the second DCA, I think, where, for example, if you have a religious organization that offers, and in that case, they were offering drug rehab services, non-religious, but just drug rehab, you wouldn't be precluded from donating money or using money, public funds, for that purpose because it's non-religious, even though it's a religious. Or if you have a church that makes tables and you need to buy tables, right? You can buy the tables, even though it's going to a religious organization. But anything other than that, whether, again, it's in kind or whether it's stroking a check, would be prohibited by the Florida Constitution. So as we've opined, because you've directly asked us before, with regards to direct donations, you can't give direct donations. The same would be the same with in kind.
But we can have the event, like it can be our event, and
that would be on a case-by-case basis. It depends what the event is and what it constitutes. We'd have to look at it, but yes, it could be.
Okay. So if we wanted to, for instance, I see Rabbi Keller is here. So historically, we have given in-kind donations to him, to Rabbi Barron, I think Rabbi Amar, the church. Those would then become our events. That's the way.
Well, you have to, again, it depends on a case-by-case basis. If there's a religious component to the event at all, you wouldn't be able to do that either.
Then that becomes tricky because what defines a religious component?
Well, again, it becomes on a case-by-case basis and what you're actually doing at that given event.
Holiday event, and without saying what kind of event. Also, no.
Right, but that's where you have to kind of get into the details of what's, if there's going to be, if there's a religious ceremony involved in it, there's prayer or things of that sort, then that would be precluded. But if it's just for kids to go out and have fun, you know, that's different. So you'd have to really look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so it would not necessarily preclude us from holding a Hanukkah event, from holding an Easter event, from holding all those events, as long as there's no prayer.
Right, so you get into, as we all know, there are secular portions of our holidays that, although they're rooted in, at one point was rooted in religion, you know, courts have looked into, like the menorah itself is not considered a religious symbol in and of itself. Same thing with the Christmas tree, right? But if there's a religious ceremony that's attached to, like the nativity scene is deemed religious, but a menorah is not. But if you, let's say, light the menorah and there's a huge religious ceremony with prayer, then it becomes a religious ceremony. So again, it depends on what's transpiring in the event that would regulate whether you can contribute money either in kind or directly.
Yeah, I think that so that we don't get off on a whole workshop just about this, we
Right.
can probably do something separate, but it would not preclude us then from continuing what we have historically supported.
Without knowing the specifics of what's occurred at those, I couldn't necessarily say that.
But generally speaking.
Generally, as long as, again, the religious component can't be there. That's the best that I can say. And again, if the criteria.
We would have a discussion about what constitutes a religious component then at some
Well,
other.
that there's 1,000 examples that you could use. That's why it's on a case-by-case basis. But generally, if there's a religious component, you know, it's going to preclude you from doing it.
But I have a question. So if we don't have the guideline, then we can continue in a case by case, as we've been doing it so far. Also,
You can, but it's good,
just
but
another-
like to your point though, legally, you should treat everybody the same.
Correct.
Especially when you get into particular groups that are trying to advocate for a particular event. You don't want somebody coming back and saying, well, you didn't do it for me because I'm this group or that group. So you want an objective criteria that you apply to everyone else, that
Okay.
you apply to everyone. And at that time, that's why there's that component that discusses what the purpose of your organization. So let's take stroking a check donation. They need to explain what they're going to do with that money. And if it's something we're going to do beach cleanup for Sunny Isles, perfect, wonderful, you know, municipal purpose there, it's great, that's fine. So we put it on them to give us the details as to what the money's going to be used for, and then we use that information to determine whether it's something that you can use public funds for.
Okay. Well, municipal purpose is something very subjective too.
It is, but the guiding principles are, so your primary purpose has to be for public benefit, so a benefit to the public itself. So for example, if you have a condo, let's say you have 300 residents in a condo building, so you want to help those 300 residents. You're helping the public, right? But you're not really helping the public if, for example, their roof is collapsing and they don't have the money to fix it. You can't use public funds to give it to them to fix their roof. That would be for a private purpose. Even though it benefits your constituents, it's not for a public purpose. So it has, the primary benefit has to be to the public at large. And any benefit to an individual or corporation or an entity has to be secondary and incidental.
Okay.
So if you wanted to run the same event that we've had in years past without the conundrum, the city could have the event and have the rabbi run it, correct?
No, you get into the same problem. If there's a religious component, you can't do it anyway. You can't give the money for it under the Florida Constitution, and you also can't do it as a governmental entity.
I mean, we had the same discussion when we were approving the event, and then we just went ahead and approved it.
Right.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Viscar,
so,
she hasn't had an opportunity.
It's fine. Okay, so I think it makes sense to have guidelines for both. I'm okay with this criteria. I really didn't have anything else to add, but I guess if we're going, but I think it should be the same criteria, but I don't know if it should be two separate documents, because this limits us in terms of dollar amount, right? There's a certain amount of money, and people can apply for it. We can, by the way, the deadline or it's arbitrary. I mean, we put January through but we can make it February through April, or we can make it summer, or whatever. I mean,
Commissioner, if I may, we put this for this year in particular. Ideally, the application period is over the summer or, you know,
To hit the fiscal year.
September, October, so that you have the whole fiscal year.
And part of it too is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but part of it too is one of the components we had put in the guidelines is that they need to spend it within that fiscal year.
Yes.
So if you wait too long and you give it to them in August, they only have a few weeks.
but
or
if
a
it's
few
our
months.
first year, we can
Right.
make
But
that
you could
adjustment.
you could also make it calendar year versus fiscal year on the
Yes.
expenditure, so
So-
that may give them more time. So you can play with it. But I
There's-
think you're
yeah, there's
correct.
answers to
You're
that.
correct that you can certainly separate out using the same criteria, but separate out the process for.
I
some
do
time.
think that that needs to be done because an in-kind donation, let's say that it's, I know I don't remember numbers, but the in-kind donation that we gave about Gateway, that was a big number. And I don't, honestly, I don't remember it, but maybe it was like 20,000 or something.
Perhaps we should have two sets of numbers, one that is.
Wait, wait,
Because,
let
right,
Commissioner
because if we clump them together, that one in-kind would use up, and while the dollars are untouched. So I do think if you want to make amounts, fine, but there's the dollars and there's the in-kind in terms of the value, am I making sense? Like, they need to be treated differently, so, but the criteria should be the same as well. And in terms of, we have to be careful, like, well, it'll be a city event, but we'll just give it to others to run, or if it's a city event, it's a city event. It also doesn't mean that, we're not telling, in these particular two events that we're talking about, we're not saying you can't use the city facilities. We're saying you can't have it as an in-kind donation the way you've been having it. They can certainly pay for it if they want to use it. Like, I know that they did that at Heritage. Or if it's going to continue along this path where it's going to become a city event, we can't just switch out the label and then business as usual, because then it's a city event, it would be different. So I think we need to manage expectations in that sense too. But yeah, if we're going to use the criteria, we might as well tackle both issues at the same time. But I do think that they are different, because one is dollars and the other one is costs. There's actual costs, but the dollars are coming out of the bank account in a different way. So those are my thoughts.
I want to add to your point that it starts getting a little murky when we talk about municipal purposes, because if you use the example of Rabbi Barron's event, he had over 500 people who they weren't there necessarily because they were all celebrating Hanukkah. They were there because they have traditionally, gone to this and they appreciate it and they have fun and there's dancing. And so I can't imagine having us now telling Rabbi Barron or Rabbi Kaller that you have to now pay for something that they have traditionally basically sponsored, because they pay all the other costs associated with it, and we have so many of our residents attend. That becomes really challenging for me.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, if it's gonna be the other way, if it's gonna be stay as if we have to make it a city event, that it's not gonna be the same.
I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
So it's gonna be some version, and if that's not acceptable, then the other option is to pay.
Right.
But that's what I'm talking about, managing expectations. It's not gonna be, well, we're just gonna switch out the names.
I think another option is just we don't have the guideline and we go case by case. Because if we are going to be picking and choosing when to apply, I'm against the guideline. I don't want the
The
guideline.
whole point of having guidelines is that we're not picking and choosing.
Well, we've been doing it until right now,
But that's
and
why
it's
we need a
working.
guideline.
Well, I think it's working, picking and choosing. So I don't want the
then we don't
guideline.
need guidelines.
I don't want the guideline.
Wait,
I'm
we're
against the
we're
guideline.
talking over
I'm
each
getting
other.
confused.
Hold on.
If I may, picking and choosing, you really shouldn't do, because that's where you get into one group's picked over and the other. Why? Well, I can't tell you why. It's too subjective. You have to have objective criteria to make these selections.
Can I just ask a clarification from the deputy manager? How would these guidelines, I know they can't necessarily prevent, but how would they make it more streamlined so that it doesn't come off as we're picking and choosing? What's in here? What mechanism is in here that prevents that?
They have to submit all of their 501c3, they have to name the public purpose, they have to write a letter of request, they would have to include their key performance indicators, they would have to include their budget.
Okay.
And then everybody's filling out the same application. You're looking at it all objectively on the same
And
platform.
we had also thrown in my past experience, it's been beneficial, although the amount, depending on the amount, it may not be as impactful, but to do what's essentially a grant agreement or a donation agreement. I've had examples in the past in other jurisdictions where $5,000 was given for a particular purpose, and it came out that they didn't spend the money for that purpose, and it was for something else that wasn't approved. So you want to have the ability to set forth in an agreement, and they don't have to be complicated, but that you're going to use the money for what you're saying you're going to use it for, and if you don't, we're going to claw it back.
Just feels like now we're adding a whole bureaucracy to it that who's going to be following up on that?
So, I mean, I just want to say, you know, as a city, we have applied for similar things from Miami-Dade County or the state, and we have to jump through these same hoops. It's a very similar process. They have a grant application period. You have to fill out the forms. You have to have supporting documentation.
So would this
can't get it
require
2
us to
years
have
in
to
a row.
hire someone?
No, because we're intaking it, we're reviewing it. If it's not right, we're kicking it back and saying your application wasn't, we're not going to handhold, we're not going to do it for them, we're not going to help them. They're welcome to come to you if they want help in that regard, but if we have a completed package, it doesn't go anywhere. And checking that it's a completed package is pretty simple, basic. Our office can handle
I
that.
just have a question. So we've been doing things so wrong for all these years that we now have to create this whole bureaucracy and, you know, throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I'm not going to publicly say what you've done in the past.
Well, I'm just saying, so we haven't.
I'm just
have we had any
recommending to you
complaints
how
in the
it should
past?
go forward. I'm not going to opine as to the propriety of what's been done in the past, but my legal recommendation is for you to proceed in that manner.
And another comment is that we are not going to give it to the same organization every year. Then we have the same issue with the events, or for example, with the Little League of Baseball. If they're going to continue having the program, they have to have the field every single year. So that's another provision that it is not a good provision, you know. I'm okay if they're going to be needing the funds, the place, the park, the field every year, and we're going to be providing it every year.
There would only be baseball on alternate years.
or the events.
No,
or the
but
events.
that
you know?
just proves the point that the in-kind and the dollar donations are different. I mean,
We would have to
you're
create a
making the
separate,
point.
using the same general guidelines and
Right.
objective criteria, we could create two processes.
Vice Mayor, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously there's exceptions, and perhaps in-kind has got to have a separate set of rules, because you're not going to have Little League one year and then next year no, or one holiday you're going to have an event, another next year you're not going to have holiday, or so.
Actually, we don't need that if we take out that provision from the monetary donations, because if there is one organization that every year needs $500 from us for that, again, that's the problem. We cannot have two different set of rules. Everybody can have the 500. I mean, the same organization can have the 500 every year, the same way that Little League is going to have the field every year. We are setting the rules. So why are we going to treat certain groups one way and another groups the other way? It's discriminatory. So we should not be doing that. That's my point with the set of rules. So when we're picking and choosing, we are again picking and choosing. We came back to the point of picking and choosing how a set of rules for one and another set of rules for another one.
Okay, so you want to pick and choose, but I mean, that's why we've been talking about guidelines for a while.
Precisely, but now we
But
want
you
to
don't
have...
want guidelines?
Wait,
I'm
wait,
trying to
let me get
I want the
clarification.
same guidelines.
The guidelines are guidelines, right? It doesn't mean that it still cannot be sponsored by a commissioner to say, although this does not meet the guidelines, I still want to sponsor this for this organization because I feel very strongly.
Technically, they shouldn't even be applying. So I think if there's consensus that they can be funded every year, that you just make that recommendation and we change the guidelines to account for that. I don't think there's any legality
No, you
to that.
the simple solution is to take out the bi-yearly, whatever it is.
Of course, yes.
I don't know if it's
That's
bi-yearly
just
or whatever it is.
You know, we did a lot of research on guidelines that other organizations use, and that is a very common practice, is that it's every other.
Part of the justification for that is that, and maybe when you're dealing with larger amounts, but you get an organization that yearly relies on the city's donations, and if you stop, the organization dies. And then you get under the pressure of, if we don't give them money this year, they die. So then they get it every year because no one wants to see that organization die. But then you end up being the sole and prominent sponsor of that organization. That's why they have that in
And
there.
that's why I favor it. I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want entities to become dependent on charity from the city. I think we're happy to help, but they need to find funding, in other sources, and by not allowing it every year, it encourages them to be, more self-sufficient. So
I don't think they can depend on $2,000 to function for a year.
You'd be surprised. I don't know who's going to apply, but I don't like the annual thing. I think it creates again, you're managing expectations. But if we do the money donations and the in-kind donations in mirror documents, but you address that for the in-kind, I think that addresses it.
I want to see them treated equally. That's the only way I might support it.
What do you say, Commissioner Joseph?
I just think that we were on a good path before we got involved with this.
So you would like to have no guidelines?
I think
Or
I'm
no
happy-
donations.
I'm happy without having guidelines for the in-kind.
Okay, but as far as donations, because we never really, we did not formalize donations, whereas in-kind, we by default formalize it by giving them every year.
Yes.
But monetary donations, we've never made them formal. In fact,
Right.
what is the last monetary donation that we've given?
We didn't budget it last year, so it was fiscal
was nothing
year
last year.
22-23.
Okay, so,
Right. And then also having it the end of March, you have a lot of nonprofits have taxes that are due April 15th. So they may tell us their tax returns aren't prepared yet. So that might cause an issue for them as well.
Well, it
having
would be the
to supply
previous
us.
years. And that deadline is only for this year because we're coming to you mid-year. If we had these the idea was that we would have had these guidelines earlier
Right.
approved so that we could have had an application period of like October, November, earlier in the year.
So I'm fine with having an appropriate protocol for monetary donations in order to see who qualifies, who we should be giving it to. As far as the in-kind, I think we were on a good path the way we were.
all right, so we're all
Otherwise, it's just
diverged.
going to lead to more of a conundrum.
All right, so Commissioner Savison wants either none or consistent for both, correct?
I think that's what Alan said,
Okay.
that
Right,
we
consistent.
need to do.
All right.
That's what I want.
No, I
Yeah.
want to, I'm just trying to get consensus so I can get for clarification.
If you're gonna do donations, to Commissioner Stevenson's point, that they are the same, in-kind or stroking a check, same thing. You should have guidelines that apply to both. I mean, obviously with a little tweak in there if there's a timing issue with submitting, but to your point again, Commissioner Stevenson, if there's a major event that occurs that you want to do an in-kind, that's not something you can plan for. So there has to be a separate process, but the criteria should be the same, minus, potentially, I don't know if we have a consensus on the yearly, non-yearly thing.
Even if we do away with it, which I don't think is a good idea, but let's say that we do away with it, we're still on the amounts. So it's going to be the same. It's going to be in kind, $2,000 between $500 and $2,500.
Well, part of it's
because
going
if
to
it's
have.
going to be the same, it's going to be the same, right?
Well, part of it. part of it
You see
too
what I'm
is,
saying?
so you have some events where you've approved, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the in-kind that have been approved. So in-kind can be, okay, use the facility, we're not gonna charge you rent. But then there's staff that has to be there to open it. You gotta pay for the electricity, you gotta pay for the water, you gotta pay for the police officer that has to be there. So there's both an in-kind with forgiveness. So that's not something that is coming out of your budget.
I
Because
understand
somebody's
that.
using the facility. But what's coming out of your budget is for the police officer, staff, and so on and so forth. So that's where it gets murky if you treat them differently in that regard.
But don't we typically charge for that?
This past year, you did not. Your in-kind included staff.
So in-kind included PD?
Yes.
Are you
Included
certain?
everything.
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So it gets very involved.
Okay.
And it's on overtime, so it's a.
No, I understand. Okay, so you're for not having guidelines. Commissioner?
You're going to spend a lot of hours.
No, I know. Viscara, where are you leaning?
I think we should have guidelines.
And the same for both?
I don't think that the same for both, and maybe we're just saying the same things differently. But if we're saying the same paper, we're just gonna put at the top here, donations, in-kind, and monetary. It's gonna be the same words that apply to everything from page 2 on, right? That means that's the same, that's consistent. And if that's the case, then you're gonna have to stay between $500 and $2,500 regardless of donation, regardless whether it's in-kind or cash, because that's the same. And is that what we're saying? Because if that's being uniform. What I was saying is that they're different, and therefore we should have a little packet for money, and then a different packet, because I do think that they're different, for the in-kind. But if you want to keep everything between $500 and $2,500, understand that that's what you're doing for both in-kind and donations. I don't think that we're all saying that. But if we're all understanding that and you want to make it the same for everybody, then okay, I'm okay with that. And because it's small amount, we can make it every year, fine.
Well,
but I don't think that that's what we're saying.
Hold on, let Vice Mayor, go ahead.
If I can just clarify also what I said earlier, that you can have them separate, but there can't, or they should be the same criteria. But to your point, if you all want to say for stroking a check donations, it's $25,000. But for in-kind, we're going to budget possibly up to 50, because a lot of it's unpredictable potentially, and you don't know. There's certain recurring events that you deal with that you can kind of scope out, but there may be things that come up that are unexpected. So it wouldn't be legally impermissible to have separate funds and a different amount for each. So you could separate them that way, but the criteria should be the same. Right.
But you still can't give it to religious institutions according to this criteria and according to the law, apparently, what you're saying constitutionally.
Correct.
So even if we call it a city event, it can't be a city Hanukkah event. It has to be a holiday something, and then we can figure out how to invite the different congregations
And that's where the facts of each event get into play as to what's occurring at the event and so on and so, and then we'd have to look at that as an
or maybe it can be a city Hanukkah event. Would it be? No.
I'm sorry?
There's plenty
I
of
don't know.
cities that have Hanukkah events.
Right, so
menorah
Christmas and
lighting
Hanukkah, so the holiday monikers, again, a lot of them have become so secular that a lot of cities have the different ones. What comes down to is what occurs at those. So you could have, again, a Hanukkah festival.
Okay.
And just like you have your Easter egg hunt, or you have a Christmas tree lighting, or whatever it is, activity for a bunch of kids, and it's for the public, and it's great, it's wonderful, you have food. But then if you have, if you had, let's say, a nativity scene, and you have a religious ceremony, the blessing of the nativity scene by the Catholic Church, and so on and so forth, you can't do that, because then it becomes a religious ceremony. So that's why if you look at each event and see what's happening, you can determine whether it's proper to expend the money. So if you have, sorry to
It's okay.
delay, but it's just like the religious organization making tables, you need to buy tables. It's the same thing here. If a religious organization wants to put on a festival to have kid rides and, petting zoo, whatever else, Doesn't matter that it's a religious organization as long as the event isn't religious.
So
That
there
makes
is a
sense.
path, though. It sounds like there is a path for the city to be able to do something. And then the in-kind donation conversation, maybe it's a different animal, but we can still, as a city, proceed
Again,
and accommodate
again, it just gets
yeah.
tricky because there's that fine
Well,
line between religious and
yeah,
non-religious.
okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So is there all of a sudden going to be a watchdog that's watching these events to say, oh, you've introduced a religious element where there wasn't previously, or you have
It's
to
not that there's
remove-
not that there would be a watchdog, but the thing is, it's a public event, so whatever happens there is public, and we would think that whoever the applicant is going to be honest and true to their word.
In another comment, the maximum amount doesn't need to be 2,500. We can pump that to 10,000.
I
We
was
used to
gonna-
give 10,000. So this is like we are talking about, we are having this conversation. So the maximum amount doesn't need to be 2,500. It can be more than that. So that for, like, to your point, you know?
But if you're giving 10,000, then you're creating that dependency.
Not necessarily.
No, I think so. That's why I voted against that $10,000 donation.
If we give $10,000 to the
Well,
Red Cross,
I
it's
w-
nothing
I
compared
wouldn't-
to what they.
I think
they-
the issue, the reason I think.
Wait, we're all talking over each other. Hold on one second. Let the vice mayor speak because he's been waiting.
So two things. So one, we used to have a $50,000 donation budget, monetary donation budget. We should have that amount reinstated, I believe. Right now it's 25,000.
I don't think we have any
It's
amount.
5,000.
We don't
No,
have
it says somewhere 5,000 per.
No, we don't have anything currently.
We do in this budget. I thought it was 25,000, and I'm looking it up
I
right
think I
now.
read 5,000 per.
We did $25,000, so it was $5,000 per elected official, which is why we limited the 2,500 per
Understood, yeah,
application, so you would each have two, essentially.
So I think it should be raised to 50,000. And then another thing, the way I'm looking at this is that these are the guidelines. You know, all the sections stay the same, but when we get to the actual monetary component, we just add one where we're talking about an actual monetary where we cut the check. And then when we're talking about cost related or the monetary expense to the city related to in-kind, you know? So I think we should have two sets there under funding sources and donation amounts.
And I think the premise behind the limit per donation is that, so if you have, if we do split 50,000, you have 10,000 each, and somebody comes in, and then you all as a body are going to approve them, but it gets very hard to manage because at that point, you have perhaps just one person that's getting the bulk of the money, or if it's not capped at 10,000 and somebody wants 20,000, then you're taking almost half of the money that's budgeted for the year for one organization. I think that's why we
And that
put
was
in
part
the
of the
caps.
issue I had with
Yeah, look,
the way we're doing it before.
my biggest concern about the entire guidelines and criteria is that it also sets a historical precedent that we're going to be doing this every single year, where we may not necessarily have any reason to give a donation. And so it goes back to Commissioner Vizcarra's point about having someone rely on this to function. I don't know, I'm kind of.
And we try in the agreement that.
I don't.
Okay, so let's just be clear. Let's take, for example, the Hanukkah celebration at Gateway. Are we putting a dollar amount now on how much it's worth to give an in-kind
We
donation
did.
for the
We had 'em
use?
when we
You
did.
always do.
So what is the amount that we're
I
gauging?
don't remember
for
it,
the
but it
use
was,
of
we
Gateway?
voted on it.
It was substantial, yeah.
We voted on it. We approved it.
We approved it with the
Yeah,
policing
November.
and the staff and all
Yes.
of that.
It was
Yes,
not-
I
yeah,
just
it
don't
was-
remember
okay,
the
yeah,
amount.
it was-
So is this commission now saying that you don't want to continue with that event?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
It
that we
sounds
need
like
to
it.
see. No, I'm saying that we had the same discussion last time, a few months ago. And, same thing was said by Alan, and we went ahead and approved it. It was
But
part
how would
of
you
our-
approve it under these guidelines?
You couldn't.
You can't.
We just approved it.
We
How
didn't have
would
the
you?
guidelines.
No, but.
No, but what Commissioner Joseph
I'm
is
not
saying.
talking about the guidelines. I'm talking about the law.
Okay, but now you're bringing in these guidelines. How would you approve that under these guidelines?
Well, we could, that's why we need to work with Alan and see how
But
we
I'm
can have
just
certain.
asking the question.
Certain,
How-
I mean, he was.
So you wouldn't be
Wait,
able to?
talking over each other.
What?
You wouldn't be able to.
No, because you gotta make sure, because he's saying that certain religious, let's say, events like Christmas and Hanukkah have kind of, they'll, become secular in a way, where you have other participants and other residents coming there. I think what he's trying to say is that you cannot be, too outwardly and have any type of religious ceremony, right?
We're not looking to change the content of the event.
No, but I
It's
don't think the event
itself.
itself.
How are we going to continue the event itself?
But the content, the event itself, in my eyes, it's an event for the city. It's kind of secular. Obviously, it's
Okay.
being run by
So-
Rabbi Keller, but I.
Okay, so
see it
this
as-
coming year, under these guidelines, that would still be the same in-kind donation?
But that, I think that comes down to finance
No.
and budget.
Let Alan.
I think that comes down to finance and budget. So I think you're looking at two tracks. One, whether it's permissible legally, which let's say it is permissible based on what the event is. And then you're talking about budget. So if you're going to have a pot of $50,000 for donations, you probably should have a separate fund for stroking a check type thing to go through a process where there's a time for application and so on and so forth. And then if you want to do in-kind donations, there probably should be another bucket of money for that with regards to funding, because that's going to be completely different.
Yeah, but I think that there's a way to solve for this, and
Well, but
we
we're
kind
just-
of,
we're-
no, but we kind of did, because it was
We're not
originally in our
dealing with
budget.
it. We're just.
No, and I agree with you, because it was in our budget. Rabbi Kaller's event was in our budget. It was a line item in our budget last
No.
year.
No, it was not. It was not a line item.
It was not included in our budget?
I'm positive.
Okay, so then fine.
Because it was an
So then
in-kind
what about
donation.
if that's what ended up, if we have historical things that we know are gonna come up, so whether it be the Little League, or the Rabbi Kaller's event, or Rabbi Barron's event, or whomever that we have not grandfather, can we just put them in our budget, and they're not included in this process? Is my point.
No, I wouldn't put the actual events in. What I would do is, you could probably estimate, because for your budget purposes, you need to estimate. So if you know realistically you're going to spend $30,000, you typically spend $30,000 a year on these in-kind donations with these recurring events.
Mm-hmm.
You come up with a projected number like you do with most of your budgeting, that you think next year you're going to spend $50,000 in in-kind, and budget that rather than for each actual event. Because then when you get on, that makes it even more on the books, because then if you have somebody that comes in and says, okay, I want this event in kind.
We've had that already.
Yeah, but I
with
feel
the
like we're not
chess-
using common sense
with the
here.
chess tournament that we
if I
put
may.
in.
I know.
Wait, hold on, let Commissioner
If I may,
Stuyvesant speak.
this year budget is going to be close to $300 million. So if that's our budget, then we can have a donation bucket of $100,000 with a cap of $20,000 per donation. In every event, like Rabbi Kaller's or whoever, whatever, the Little League, we are going to have the maximum amount to be able to continue providing what historically we've been providing. So that'll be my proposal. We can give it every single year to the same organization from 20,000 to 500.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I'm
Was
finished.
Rabbi Kaller's event
Let me finish.
20,000?
No, it was like around 12,000, if I'm not mistaken.
11,455.
Yes.
So-
Yes. Let me finish, Jerry, please. So, like I said, it was around 12,000. So if we have a maximum of 20,000 per donation, okay? So from maximum 20,000, minimum 500, then we can continue giving what we've been giving historically, legally, and we have it budgeted for. And we're going to be transparent, we are going to be consistent, we are going to be treating everybody equally, they're going to do their application, and we are going to be able to provide what we've been providing. And that way, I think we solve all the issue. We have the money for it, we have the guidelines, and we respectfully are going to be asking whoever wants to participate to continue. We haven't been giving donation for like 2 years now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That is correct,
So
yes.
everybody is been surviving with us not giving donation.
We gave the in-kind.
Well, that
So
is
we're
my point.
classifying
which is-
historic events.
Huh?
So we're making this a category as
No,
historic.
you
Yeah,
don't
no, you-
understand what I'm saying.
If from a budget standpoint, you need to have a general bucket for, let's say, in-kind. You can't, they're not city events, so you can't go ahead and list them specifically as those particular events for that budget, because they're not city events. You're giving money to someone, or whether you're doing it in-kind or through the services, but budget's gonna have to work that out, but it's not gonna be, you know, for this event, that event, that event, because that's gonna change too, and you want flexibility in that money in case something happens.
Which is the point. So if we have up to 20,000 per request, we can, like I said, continue giving what historically we've been giving. And there is going to be a set of guidelines, etc., for everybody.
Guys resolved it?
Not yet. So how do we deal with someone like Alex with his chess tournament that wanted to use Gateway and we said no?
He needs to apply. And now we can.
Right, and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're all gonna decide who gets the money as a body.
Right, so it goes back to my point, unless I missed something huge, but if these remain as guidelines and not criteria.
Well, they really are. I mean, you can't.
They are
If
criteria.
you're gonna, yeah, you really should have them as criteria, because guidelines,
not guidelines.
just, if you're not gonna follow the guidelines, then they're gonna be wishy-washy, that's of no use.
I agree with that. If we're gonna create rules, then it's to follow them. If it's gonna be, well, because when, you know, only when we like it, then we just wasted an hour of conversation.
Well, that is my proposal, what I just said.
What did you can you
I think that in-kind and money donations are inherently different. So I think that we should have very similar documents, but we need to separate out that value, that even if we make it in one document, but I think that they need to be, they need to be treated a little bit differently.
Logistically, they're different.
Because of the value.
Yeah, logistically, they're different.
They are logistically a little different, so I think they should
Legally,
be.
they're the same, but logistically, they're different.
Correct. And if legally they're the same, and we really need to address this idea of bullet number 2, donations may not be made to religious organizations. But if we don't like that, it's like I don't care which way we go, honestly. I just want to know if it's legal, and that whatever we do is legal. And as long as it's legal, then I'm okay. I think that logistically they're a little different, and I don't like the idea of just, well, why don't we just blow up the money amount, and that way we fit everything in the money. I'm more inclined to go the other way and be more fiscally conservative and give well, but not, it's not a new giveaway situation. So if we're going to be doing that, then I'm more towards reducing the numbers rather than just increasing the money. But as long as it's legal, I'm okay.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
No, but I mean, I agree. It's totally different because, one thing is an in-kind donation. Those could easily go up to 50,000. Let's say if you include, let's say you're giving the park for an entire day. You try to rent out an entire park, that could be $100,000 a day in reality. So I think that we should have a set of numbers for monetary cash donations and a set of numbers for in-kind donations.
Yeah, I think we
And
probably
that's it.
need to go back to the drawing board based on the direction we've gotten. And then I think Tiffany and finance need to figure out, I don't know how that's monetized or not monetized, but how that's reflected on the books with regards to in-kind donations. I don't know if you know, but.
We don't really, so like later this fiscal year, you will probably have a budget amendment to increase the overtime budget for the police department, as an example, because it exceeded what we anticipated. So
Which is the point that in-kind is not in-kind. It's money coming out of our account.
Yes. And so, we are spending money to support those things through personnel, typically in kind is primarily personnel or loss of revenue. Like I could have rented it and now I'm not. The difference was the Rabbi Barron's event here, we actually had to pay out of pocket for something. So that's a different, that should have been more of like a monetary than an in-kind.
Yep, but not to belabor this, but I do want to say on the record, it is troublesome to me that we would make it so much harder for someone to hold an event that's open to the entire city and has such a huge turnout versus events that we have that may have very small turnout and end up costing per person a lot more. And so it starts becoming a question of what is it that the people of Sunny Isles Beach actually want to do and want to attend, because that's who we're representing. It's not just, and I know you disagree, Alan, but I don't think it's black and white. I think that there's a lot of gray here, and we have a population that is either Jewish or Catholic, and they'd like to see these kinds of events. And I think that once we start taking them away, we're going to have a problem. So go back to, I don't want to start a whole conversation.
Cultural problem.
Cultural problem, absolutely. I'm not saying religious problem. I'm talking about it culturally. But
I'm not, who's taking them away though?
If
Well,
we look at bullet point,
it was
the second
going-
bullet point,
yeah.
it becomes a problem. So, but I think, like, go back to the drawing board, like Alan said.
I'm not okay with this guideline.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good.
We will go back, take your comments, and try to build the sponsorships, the in-kind, and the donations into some sort of document or guideline that we can bring back to you for approval.
Great.
Or a couple
Have a workshop for
Or a
that.
couple
That'd be, I think, helpful.
Yeah, because it's already 5:10. We didn't
Yeah,
even do
so
the extension.
what
of
are we
time.
doing? Are we extending, or are we gonna move this to the commission meeting? What do you guys?
A long commission meeting. What's the next item?
Next item is scholarships. I suspect this is gonna take just as long. So should we stay on this and just go through?
Can we move to
It may be shorter than this one, depending on what.
All right, do we want to try, and then if we go past 5:45, then we'll stop?
Well, I'd like to make sure I address the legislative priorities, only because that potentially can become something I'd like to then
Add to the commission meeting?
Add to the commission meeting, so.
All right, I'm not opposed to that. Does anyone have any opposition?
No.
I'm okay continuing.
Going all the way through? All right, let's go. Let's do it fast. We have consensus that we're going to go fast.
Let's see.
Mr. City Manager, you heard that.
I'm ready. So for item 3C regarding scholarships, we recommend against it.
I'm okay with
Thank
that, too.
Wow, fast.
Against what? Against giving scholarships?
Yeah.
Why?
Based on our review and my discussion with legal, it presents some significant legal challenges, and we feel like it's best to eliminate the scholarships.
I agree.
I don't. I think that, obviously there was an issue that came up. We start looking at everything that, if something, becomes an issue, or we have an issue with something, I don't think we should, just fold. I mean, I think that, some of the recipients were very grateful. They deserved it. And, we should probably, consider this or have a little more discussion regarding this, because I do think that it adds a benefit to some of these, to the students that are being awarded these scholarships. Everything in life, we're going to have issues here and there. And I don't think that, we should just say we're going to eliminate it just because, we have an issue or two regarding these scholarships. I know that there's a legal aspect to it where you are giving money to an individual, and it's not for city purposes, let's say, as a whole. But then again, on the other side of the token, it is a resident of the city. And so I think you are benefiting this city in a way. And it's a program that, any student from the city can apply to. So that's, I was thinking about it a little bit. So, it was tough, obviously, I understand what you were trying to say, Alan, when we met. But then again, I think it's a benefit that is open to anybody that's in the city and that could apply. So that's how I was thinking about it lately. So, yeah.
I think we're not in the business of giving scholarships, because that goes back to, then what does that stop someone that is going to graduate school wanting to get a scholarship that's an adult? We're then giving individual grants. I think that I'd rather have that money moved, if we're going to do these donations, moved over to donations that serve an actual municipal purpose rather than an individual. But let's see what everyone else thinks.
And just because not all of you were privy to my opinion on this, and it was actually my predecessor's opinion as well. But it stems from an attorney general opinion. Actually, there was a county, Calhoun County, don't know exactly where that is. They were doing it in the form of a loan, but the attorney general found that that is a private donation because the public benefit is way too tenuous and too secondary to the primary. You're really giving somebody a private donation. And found that the county couldn't do that. In fact, the county made it in a loan work because they wanted more doctors to practice within their county. So they would give medical students loans, forgivable loans, and if they came back and practiced medicine in the county, they'd forgive the loan. And that was found to be an improper use of public funds because it was a private donation versus, not donation, but a private use of public funds rather than a primary benefit to the public. And the only reason I'm saying is not to argue with you, but just because I didn't have the same conversation with everyone else.
Commissioner Vizcarra?
You know, I'm pretty predictable. You know, I mean, if the law indicates that we need to change gears, then we change gears.
And again,
I'm okay with not doing the scholarship.
You can certainly continue to do it. That's just, my opinion. Obviously, you don't have to. It's just my opinion based on what the Attorney General has held before. But that's obviously up to you.
Commissioner Joseph?
I'm thinking that if we were to continue with the scholarships, that we have to change the criteria. So,
all right. Well, we have 3 against and 2 for. So I think getting rid of the scholarships. All right. Legislative priorities.
For this, and we're getting ready to start the legislative session. So what I'm looking for from you, without getting some extensive list that is impossible to move forward, I guess narrowing your focus on things that are important to you as a group that you would like us to focus on from the legislative priorities, that I can work with the city attorney and our lobbyist of things that we can move forward, stating that just areas you would like us to focus on from a policy and legislative perspective.
Let me ask you a question. In the past, historically, our lobbyist really was not lobbying for legislative items, but for money. And then we determined that the amount of money we were getting, it was too much trouble, and it caused us more money to get that money. So we started recommending against that. So how are we going to do this if we don't have an actual list to choose from?
I'm looking to you to give us some sort of overview or a list to work from. I guess we're saying kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. So we're saying you need a list first for us, for you to then give me direction.
So if we wanted to say we want to go back to having Ron Book get us money, is that one of those, or is that not part of this list?
Right now, we still have a contract with Ron Book, but what we're looking for is we did set aside some money in this budget for a lobbyist to move forward our legislative agenda.
Yeah, so because right now there's not a whole, I think there's 12 bills right now that have been introduced. I don't know about the special session, whether that goes forward, but right now I think there were, last time I checked, there were 15 or 12 bills that were, because we are firm keeps track of the bills that deal with local government. And so far, like I said, I think there's 15 or so. So if you wait until the list of bills come out by the deadline,
it's too late.
It's almost too late, right? Mm-hmm. So I think in conversation with some of you, the idea was to, if you had certain areas that you want to concentrate on. So for example, I know that 2 of you are interested in possibly better regulation for scooters. So that's an area we know that you're focusing on. So we could try to look out for those things. You know, once the bill hits, we can try to get a little step up before we have to wait until all the bills are in. And I think this year, from what I understand, I think there's going to be a scramble to file them, because I think there's a limit of 7 per of bills that they can file.
For the representatives?
Yes.
But not for the senators?
Right, for the
Right.
representatives. So there's going to be a flurry of them that are going to come up. But it's just in the past, if we wait until there's a list and then you choose which ones you want to advocate, it's too late, like you stated.
All right, well then,
So if there's something right now that you're interested in that you want us to look out for, that would be good to know, because then we can try to do what we can. You know, we're not a lobbying firm. We don't do lobbying.
No, I know.
But we can certainly, you know, track as much as we can. And then in conjunction with Ron Book, too, if we know something hits early and this is something that you all are interested in, then we don't have to wait the next month to come to you as a body to say, hey, is this something that you want us to push forward? If you tell us that, yeah, anything scooters coming up, push forward, then we'll know to start working on that before we come back to you. That way we get a little bit of advance time.
so I'll start. And I think we've discussed this as a body, but it would be the amendments to the Live Local, anything having to do with insurance, and any requirements for condos and reserves.
Yeah, I second that. And then scooters again. I mean, I think that if you have a motorized vehicle, people that are 16 years and older should get a license for that, to be honest with you. So you could start regulating that.
Commissioner Viscar?
Okay, I think that we need to have like 3 broad categories that we can, because the session moves faster than we do, right? So, and this is what I'm hoping, that we can agree on the 3 broad categories, and that then we can bring it to the commission meeting, so that then they have their official direction, right? So what I was thinking was the home rule issues, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel on that, because Miami-Dade County League of Cities and the Florida League do a lot of that. However, sometimes our needs are not the same as what the FLC is promoting, so we would need that filter. So home rule, again, just because it's an easier one. Anything condo relief or reform, I would include Live Local in that. Insurance, HOA, you know, so anything condo relief or condo reform. And then my third one was like anything like coastal and storm resiliency, anything related to hurricane hardening, beach, ocean environmental initiatives, flooding, you know, I was thinking water. I was trying to think of a broad word for water, but coastal and storm resiliency. And I think those 3 things really cover a lot of our issues, right? We're not going to be talking about agricultural cows things, right?
Right.
And then on the very narrow path, that's very specific to us, that maybe other cities don't, and also specific to Key Biscayne, is the scooters was on my narrow list. I've spoken to Ron Book. They said that they could, you know, help us, you know, that once we know like things that we need to push for, they could help us setting up meetings. Again, FLC is good, and we can do that part of the agenda, but when it comes down, when we go for legislative days, so much has already happened.
Oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
And we've already reached out, right, to Key Biscayne. They're, you know, to see what they're doing. They're working with a legislator, so we're already in communications with that, and there is strength in numbers. We're not the only city. We know Key Biscayne is dealing with it, and it's gonna become a bigger problem. So I think we need to be at the forefront of that. But that's not a broad category. That's a very narrow category. But I think for us, it's important. So if those would be my recommendations, and I think it covers what everybody else is bringing up: home rule, condo relief, condo reform, and coastal and storm resiliency. I think covers us. And then scooters over here.
Yes. Also, I've been speaking to Susan regarding the scooters as well. And also Senator Albritton, he had in 2022, he had Senate Bill 26-00971-22 regarding riparian rights that I'd like to see him reinstate that legislation.
What is it?
To try to have that go through. It's regarding riparian rights on submerged land where there's a submerged landowner. It restores riparian rights.
So maybe that's
for
part of the
upland-
coastal
For upland
category.
Homeowners. So that's something that I'm going to be contacting him regarding. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Also-
something, if you have a specific legislator that's working on
Well,
something or
now-
worked on something.
Now,
that-
actually, Senator Albritton is Speaker of the Senate. So
Right, so
he may have
Ron
more
Book
influence
would-
to have this pass. So we'll see.
Okay, condo is the number one that I have. Everybody's asking for more restrictions about the abuses of the condo boards and the associations. That will be for me to put, and we have like Representative Porras and other ones that they're working on it. I have very good relationship with them as well, and they're gonna continue working on that. So condos is a number one for me. One that is about money is to get some money for the construction of the park under the causeway. We had not presented that, and I think we can get some money for that and start that and have that relationship with the FDOT to start that construction, keep people out of the streets and put them there with the different plans that we can come up at some point, tennis courts, etc. That'll be perfect to get some money for the Under Causeway project. And the third one is that last year they were trying to pass new legislation about the concept of the defamation and harassment. It dies, but it almost like it went like halfway or so. So we can also somehow find a little bit more about it, and probably we would like to help, like push that forward. I think it's important. Defamation is a big thing, I think, here in the city of Sunny Isles Beach, and we can do something for the people that is going through that and doing that, and to give the police more teeth about it. That is something I think we should also support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is 3E, discussion on e-scooters and e-bikes.
No, that's us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I already covered part of what I was going to say. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know if banning is an option, but we are actively looking into it. This is, I think, ultimately it's going to have a legislative solution, and I think it's going to be along the lines of what Vice Mayor Lama said, which is putting an age restriction and treating them as vehicles. Whether a ban is possible or not, I don't know. I mean, we can advocate for that, but the solution is not going to be at the local level. The solution is, I think, going to be legislative.
But the restriction that was made apparent by Pizzo and Basabi was they're seen as bicycles. So making them no longer.
That's how they're seen now.
Right.
That's
so
correct.
Taking them out of that definition as bicycle and more.
If you call it a vehicle, because that's what I asked.
Right.
I don't remember where I was. Maybe it was in the meeting.
And now
maybe it
with
was with Alan, but it's like, well, what do you do with a kid? How do you handle a kid? It's like, well, what do you do when a kid is driving a car?
Right.
Right. Well, then you
now
have
with
to
the possibility
confiscate the
of our
thing.
speed
Well,
limits
maybe you
going up
confiscate
as
the
well,
thing.
it
What did you
adds
say?
another-
What did you say?
Now our speed limits are going to be going up.
Hopefully not.
Well-
Okay, what about Key Biscayne? Key Biscayne, I think they
We're
banned them.
talking to them. They're working with the legislators. It's what I think we need, and it's what Ron Book's office said. It's like, strength in numbers. So we're not out here like the cowboys, just us.
No.
Like we need to join Key Biscayne in that effort. They're ahead of us in this.
Yeah, because they had a big
and
tragedy.
there have to be other cities. So we need to figure out
Well, that's what we're trying
who
to
those
avoid.
cities are before somebody. We've been very lucky
Oh, yeah.
that people have not been hurt worse.
Well, I would like to co-sponsor this with you and you. Okay, so I'm off.
Well, it's just a discussion.
I'm okay with the ban. Perfectly. No.
Okay, speed bumps.
Which is that?
That's you.
Golden Shore speed bumps.
3F,
You.
the discussion
Oh, yes.
on.
Okay, so we have that actually for discussion tonight because the county is clamping down on the speed bumps.
Okay, so then we'll
that's
talk
where
about it
we're
later.
at. Yes.
All right, lovely. See everyone at 6:30. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.